Hey there, English learner. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been in a conversation where someone asked you, "So, what are your goals?" and you just froze? Like you know what you want to say in your own language, but in English, the words just disappear from your brain? Yeah, I've been there too. And honestly, it's one of the most frustrating feelings ever. Welcome to English Club Podcast. I'm Emily, and I'm so excited you're here with me today. You know, this podcast is all about helping you feel confident speaking English in real life situations. And today, we're going to talk about something super important, something that comes up all the time in conversations, job interviews, and even casual chats with new friends. Before we dive into today's topic, let me tell you about my morning. I was having coffee with a friend, right? And she asked me, "Emily, what are your goals for this year?" And you know what? Even though English is my first language, I actually had to stop and think for a second. Because talking about goals, it's not just about saying words. It's about expressing your dreams, your hopes, your plans. It's personal, you know? And if it's tricky for me sometimes, I can only imagine how challenging it might feel for you when you're learning English. So here's what we're doing today. We are going to learn how to talk about your personal goals in English. And I'm not just talking about simple sentences like, "I want to learn English." No. We're going deeper than that. We're going to explore how to express your dreams, how to talk about your plans for the future, how to share your ambitions with confidence and clarity. And why does this matter? Well, let me tell you, when you can talk about your goals in English, you open up so many doors. Think about it. In job interviews, they always ask about your career goals. When you meet new people, they want to know what you're working towards. When you're networking, understanding how to discuss your aspirations can create amazing connections. This is real-life English that you'll use again and again and again. By the end of this episode, you're going to know the essential vocabulary for talking about goals. You'll understand different types of goals, short-term, long-term, personal, professional. You'll learn natural phrases that native speakers use. And most importantly, you'll feel confident sharing your own dreams and plans in English. But before we get started, hey, if you're enjoying this podcast, please like and subscribe to our channel for more English learning podcasts. It really helps us create more content for you. Seriously, it makes such a difference, and I appreciate each and every one of you who takes that extra second to click that button. All right, so let's jump right in. When we talk about personal goals, we need to start with understanding what a goal actually is. Now, in English, a goal is something you want to achieve. It's your aim, your objective, your target. And the beautiful thing about the word goal is that it works for big things and small things. You can have a goal to drink more water every day, or you can have a goal to start your own business. Both are totally valid, right? So let me share something personal with you. When I was learning Spanish, which, by the way, was really hard for me, my first goal was super simple. I just wanted to order coffee in Spanish without feeling nervous. That was it. Just coffee. And you know what? That small goal led to bigger goals. Eventually, I wanted to have full conversations. Then I wanted to read books in Spanish. And now, well, I'm still working on it, but I can communicate pretty well. The point is, goals can start small and grow. Now, when we talk about goals in English, we use specific verbs. And this is important because using the right verb makes you sound more natural and confident. The most common verb is, of course, want. I want to learn English. Simple, straightforward, everyone understands it. But here's the thing. If you only use want all the time, your English can sound a bit basic. So let me give you some other options that will make you sound more sophisticated and natural. You can say "I aim to" when you're talking about something you're actively working towards. For example, "I aim to improve my English speaking skills this year." See how that sounds? It's a bit more formal, a bit more intentional. Or you can use "I plan to" when you have specific steps in mind. I plan to take an English course next month. This shows you're not just dreaming, you're actually making plans, you know? Another great phrase is "I hope to," and this is perfect when you're talking about something you want, but maybe it's not completely in your control. Like, "I hope to get a promotion at work." You're working towards it, but you can't guarantee it will happen. Or how about "I'm working towards," which shows active effort. I'm working towards buying my own house. This tells people you're actually doing something right now to achieve your goal. And then there's I aspire to, which is a beautiful, slightly formal way to talk about big dreams. I aspire to become a manager in my company, or I aspire to travel the world. It has this feeling of ambition and inspiration, you know? I really love this phrase because it shows you have big dreams and you're not afraid to share them. Let me tell you about my friend Carlos. He's from Mexico and he's learning English. And when I first met him, every time someone asked about his goals, he would just say, I want for everything. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? But after a while, I taught him these different phrases, and oh my goodness, the difference it made.
He started saying things like, I'm working towards opening my own restaurant, or I aspire to create a business that helps my community. And people responded so differently. They were more engaged, more interested, because his language showed depth and thought. So are you following along so far? I know I'm giving you a lot of verbs and phrases, but don't worry. We're going to use them in context throughout this episode, and by the end, they'll feel much more natural to you. Now, let's talk about different types of goals, because understanding these categories will help you organize your thoughts when someone asks you about your goals. First, we have short-term goals. These are goals you want to achieve soon, maybe in the next few weeks or months. Think of things like, I want to finish reading this book, or I plan to exercise 3 times this week. Short-term goals are specific and achievable quickly. Then we have long-term goals. These are the big ones, the goals that might take years to achieve. Things like, I hope to buy a house in 5 years, or I aspire to become fluent in English. Long-term goals require patience and consistent effort over time. And you know what? That's okay. Not everything has to happen right now. We also talk about personal goals and professional goals. Personal goals are about your life outside of work. Maybe you want to learn to cook better, or you want to spend more time with your family, or you want to get healthier. Professional goals are related to your career. Things like getting a promotion, learning new skills for your job, or changing careers entirely. Let me share a personal story with you. A few years ago, I had this really clear professional goal. I wanted to become a podcast host. But here's the thing, I was terrified of public speaking. I mean, really terrified. My hands would shake, my voice would tremble, and I would forget everything I wanted to say. So my short-term goal became practicing speaking in front of small groups. Then my next goal was recording myself and listening back, which was actually harder than I thought it would be, because wow, we all sound different than we think we do, right? And slowly, step by step, I worked towards my long-term goal. I took a course on podcasting, I practiced every single day. I recorded practice episodes that no one ever heard. And now, here I am, talking to you. The point of this story is that big goals are often achieved through many smaller goals. You don't just jump from 0 to fluent in English overnight. You set small goals along the way. Actually, this brings me to something really important. When you're talking about your goals in English, it's good to be specific. Instead of saying, I want to be better at English, try saying, I want to improve my English conversation skills, or I plan to learn 50 new English words every week. Being specific makes your goals clearer and also makes you sound more thoughtful and prepared. So let's practice some phrases together, okay? Imagine someone asks you, what are your goals for this year? Here are some ways you could answer. You could say, my main goal is to become more confident speaking English. Notice I used my main goal, which tells the listener this is your most important goal. Or you could say, one of my goals is to read more books in English. The phrase, one of my goals, is great because it suggests you have multiple goals, which is totally normal. You might say, I'm really focused on improving my pronunciation right now. The phrase, I'm really focused on, shows that you're giving this goal a lot of attention and energy. Or how about, I've set a goal to practice English for 30 minutes every day. When you say, I've set a goal, it shows you've been thoughtful about this. You've actually decided on something specific. And here's a phrase I love. My ultimate goal is to work in an English-speaking country. The word ultimate means final or most important, and it's perfect for talking about those big, long-term dreams. Or you could say, in the long run, I hope to become fluent in 3 languages. The phrase, in the long run, is a natural way to talk about long-term plans. Now, let me ask you something. Do you find it difficult to talk about your goals? Maybe you feel shy or you think your goals aren't important enough. Well, let me tell you, every goal is important. Every single one. Whether you want to learn 10 new English words or you want to become the CEO of a company, your goals matter. And when you talk about them in English, you're practicing a really valuable skill.
Actually, you know what? Let me tell you about a conversation I had recently. I was at a networking event, and I met this woman named Sarah. She was learning English, and when someone asked her about her goals, she got really quiet. She looked uncomfortable, and finally she said very quietly, "My goal is small. I just want to understand English movies without subtitles." And I remember thinking, that's not a small goal at all. That's an amazing goal. So I told her that, and her whole face lit up. The thing is, we often minimize our own goals because we're comparing ourselves to others. But your goals are yours, and they're valid, and they're worth talking about with confidence. So when you're describing your goals in English, own them. Be proud of them. Use strong, confident language. Let me give you some more phrases that show confidence. Instead of saying, "I kind of want to maybe learn English," say, "I'm determined to improve my English." The word determined shows strong will and commitment. Or say, "I'm committed to practicing every day." Being committed means you've made a promise to yourself and you're going to keep it. You can also say, "I'm dedicated to achieving my goals." Dedication means you're willing to work hard and make sacrifices. Or how about, "I'm passionate about learning English."
Passion is that strong feeling of love and enthusiasm for something. When you use these words, people can feel your energy and your seriousness about your goals. Now, let's talk about something that comes up a lot in conversations about goals: obstacles and challenges. Because here's the truth. Achieving goals isn't always easy, right? There are always obstacles, always challenges. And being able to talk about these in English is really important because it makes you sound realistic and mature. So, let's say someone asks you, "What challenges are you facing with your goals?" How would you answer? You might say, "The biggest challenge for me is finding time to practice English every day." Or, "I struggle with staying motivated when I don't see immediate results." The verb struggle with is really natural for talking about difficulties. You could say, "One obstacle I face is that I don't have many opportunities to speak English in my daily life." An obstacle is something that blocks your path or makes things harder. Or you might say, "It's challenging for me to overcome my fear of making mistakes when speaking English." The phrase, "It's challenging for me to," is a polite, natural way to talk about difficulties. Let me tell you, I totally understand these challenges. When I was learning Spanish, my biggest obstacle was that I was afraid of sounding stupid. I mean, really afraid. I would rather stay quiet than try to speak and make a mistake. And this fear, it held me back for so long. But you know what I learned? Everyone makes mistakes when learning a language. Everyone. Even native speakers make mistakes in their own language sometimes. So one of my goals became to make at least 5 mistakes every day when practicing Spanish. I know that sounds weird, right? A goal to make mistakes, but it completely changed my mindset. Instead of being afraid of mistakes, I started seeing them as proof that I was trying, that I was learning, that I was making progress. And this is something I want you to think about with your English goals too. Maybe one of your goals could be about changing your mindset. My goal is to become more comfortable making mistakes in English. Or, I want to stop being so hard on myself when I don't speak perfectly. These are totally valid and actually really important goals. Now, let's practice talking about progress, because when you're working towards a goal, people often ask, "How's it going?" Or, "Are you making progress?" And you need to know how to answer these questions naturally. You might say, "I'm making good progress with my English studies." Simple and positive. Or, "I've made a lot of progress in the past few months." Notice the present perfect tense there, "I've made," which connects the past to the present. Or you could say, "I'm getting better at understanding spoken English." The phrase, "I'm getting better at," shows ongoing improvement. Sometimes progress is slow, and that's okay too. You can say, "I'm making slow but steady progress." The phrase, "slow but steady," means you're moving forward, even if it's not fast. Or, "Progress has been challenging, but I'm not giving up." This shows resilience and determination. And if you haven't made much progress, it's okay to be honest. You could say, "I haven't made as much progress as I'd hoped, but I'm still working on it." Or, "I took a break from my goal, but now I'm getting back on track." The phrase, "getting back on track," means returning to your plan after a pause or setback. Let me share something vulnerable with you. Last year, I set a goal to run a marathon. I was so excited. I told everyone about it. I bought running shoes, I made a training plan, and then, well,
life happened. I got busy with work, I got sick for a few weeks, and honestly, I lost motivation. By the middle of the year, I hadn't made much progress at all. And I felt really bad about it. I felt like a failure. But then I realized something important. Goals can change. It's okay to adjust your goals based on your circumstances. So I changed my goal from running a marathon to running 3 times a week for my health. And you know what? I achieved that goal and I felt great about it. The lesson here is that when you're talking about your goals in English, it's okay to talk about changes and adjustments. You can say, I've decided to adjust my goal to make it more realistic. Or, I'm modifying my approach to achieving this goal. Or, I've realized that my original goal wasn't right for me, so I've set a new one. This kind of honesty and self-awareness actually makes you sound more mature and thoughtful. It shows that you're reflective, that you learn from experience, that you're flexible. These are all good qualities, you know? Now, let's talk about how to express motivation. Why do you want to achieve your goals? What drives you? Being able to explain your motivation in English makes your goals more meaningful and helps others understand you better. You might say, I'm motivated by the desire to communicate with people from different cultures. Or, what drives me is my dream of working internationally. The phrase, what drives me, is really natural for talking about your deepest motivations. You could say, I'm inspired by people who have achieved similar goals. Or, my motivation comes from wanting to provide better opportunities for my family. Sometimes your motivation is very personal and emotional. You might say, this goal is important to me because it represents personal growth. Or, I want to achieve this because it will make me feel proud of myself. Or, my goal is connected to my values and what I believe is important in life. Let me tell you why talking about your personal goals is so important to me. I believe that when we share our goals, we make them more real. It's like when you say something out loud, it becomes more concrete, more achievable.
And when you share your goals in English, you're not just practicing language, you're actually connecting with people on a deeper level. I remember when I first started this podcast, I was nervous to tell people about it. What if I failed? What if no one listened? What if I wasn't good enough? But then I started sharing my goal with friends, with family, with colleagues. And you know what happened? People encouraged me. They gave me ideas. They supported me. And that support made all the difference. So when you talk about your goals in English, you're not just speaking words. You're opening yourself up to connection, to support, to accountability. And that's powerful, really powerful. Let's practice some more phrases for talking about why your goals matter to you. You could say, this goal is meaningful to me because it challenges me to grow. Or, achieving this goal would give me a sense of accomplishment. The word accomplishment means successfully completing something difficult. You might say, this goal aligns with my values and what I want in life. When something aligns with your values, it means it matches or fits with what you believe is important. Or you could say, working towards this goal makes me feel purposeful and motivated. Having purpose means having a reason or direction in life. Now, here's something interesting. In English, we often talk about goals using metaphors and expressions, and understanding these can make you sound really natural. For example, we say, I'm aiming high when we're setting ambitious goals, or I'm setting the bar high, which means having high standards for yourself. We say, I'm reaching for the stars when we're pursuing big dreams, or the sky's the limit, which means there's no restriction on what you can achieve. We might say, I'm pushing myself out of my comfort zone, which means doing things that feel uncomfortable but help you grow. And when we achieve a goal, we might say, I've reached my goal, or I've hit my target, or I've accomplished what I set out to do. These phrases are all natural and commonly used. Let me ask you something. Have you thought about your goals lately? I mean, really thought about them? Because sometimes we get so busy with daily life that we forget to check in with ourselves about what we actually want to achieve. And that's normal, you know? Life is busy. But taking time to think about your goals and being able to express them clearly, that's really valuable. So let's practice putting this all together. Imagine you're at a job interview and someone asks, what are your career goals? Here's how you might answer using everything we've learned. You could say, well, my main career goal is to become a project manager in the next 3 years. I'm really passionate about leading teams and organizing complex projects. Right now, I'm working towards this goal by taking a leadership course and volunteering to lead small projects at my current job.
The biggest challenge for me is gaining enough experience, but I'm determined to learn as much as I can. In the long run, I aspire to manage international projects because I love working with diverse teams. See how that sounds? It's natural, it's detailed, it shows thought and planning. It uses a variety of vocabulary and phrases we've discussed, and it tells a story about who you are and what you want. Or imagine you're having a casual conversation with a new friend, and they ask about your personal goals. You might say, "One of my personal goals this year is to get healthier. I'm trying to exercise more and eat better food. It's challenging because I love sweets, but I'm making slow progress. I'm motivated by wanting to have more energy and feel better about myself. I've set a goal to go to the gym 3 times a week, and so far I'm doing pretty well." This is conversational, honest, and relatable. It shows you're human, you have challenges, but you're working on them. And that's exactly how we talk about goals in real life. Now, let's talk about something that might seem small, but is actually really important: asking others about their goals. Because conversations about goals aren't just one way, right? If someone asks you about your goals, it's polite and natural to ask them about theirs too. You can simply ask, "What about you? What are your goals?" Or, "Do you have any goals you're working towards?" Or, "What are you hoping to achieve this year?" These questions show interest in the other person and keep the conversation flowing naturally. You might also ask follow-up questions like, "That's interesting. What motivated you to set that goal?" Or, "How's it going so far?" Or, "What steps are you taking to achieve that?" These questions show you're really listening and engaged in the conversation. Let me tell you about a mistake I made when I was younger. I used to be so focused on talking about my own goals that I forgot to ask others about theirs. I would go on and on about what I wanted to achieve, and I didn't realize how self-centered that seemed. It took a friend pointing it out to me before I understood that good conversations about goals involve listening just as much as talking. So now, whenever someone asks me about my goals, I make sure to ask about theirs too. And you know what? I've learned so much from hearing about other people's goals. I've been inspired, I've gotten new ideas, I've made deeper connections. Asking about goals is a great way to get to know someone better. Let's practice some responses to when someone shares their goals with you. You could say, "That's a great goal. I really admire your determination." Or, "Wow, that sounds challenging but exciting." Or, "I love that you're working towards something so meaningful." These responses show support and encouragement. You might also say, "That's similar to one of my goals." Or, "I've been working on something similar, actually."
This creates common ground and can lead to deeper conversation. Or you could offer support by saying, "If you ever want to talk about it or need any help, let me know." Now, I want to talk about something that many English learners struggle with: talking about goals that didn't work out. Because let's be real, not every goal we set gets achieved, right? Sometimes we fail. Sometimes our goals change. Sometimes life gets in the way. And being able to talk about this in English is important. You might say, "I had a goal to learn French last year, but I didn't achieve it." Simple and honest. Or, "I set out to start a business, but it didn't work out." The phrase "it didn't work out" is a natural way to say something didn't succeed. You could say, "I tried to run every day, but I couldn't maintain the habit." Or, "I was working towards a promotion, but I didn't get it." It's okay to talk about these things. It doesn't make you a failure, it makes you human. And here's something important. You can talk about what you learned from goals that didn't work out. "Even though I didn't achieve my goal, I learned a lot about myself." Or, "That experience taught me to set more realistic goals." Or, "I discovered that my true passion is actually something different." I'll share a personal failure with you. A few years ago, I set a goal to write a book. I was so excited about it. I told everyone, I bought notebooks, I set up a writing schedule, and I started writing. But after a few months, I realized something. I didn't actually enjoy the process of writing a book. I loved the idea of it, but the reality was different. So I stopped. At first, I felt like such a failure. I mean, I had told everyone about this goal, and now I had to admit it wasn't happening. But then I reframed it in my mind. I didn't fail. I discovered something important about myself. I learned that while I love writing short pieces, like podcast scripts, I don't enjoy the long, solitary process of writing a book, and that's valuable information. So when I talk about this now, I say, I set a goal to write a book, but I discovered it wasn't the right goal for me. Instead, I found my passion in podcasting, which combines writing with speaking and connecting with people. Sometimes our failed goals lead us to our real goals. See how that sounds?
It's honest, it's reflective, and it shows growth and self-awareness. These are all good things to demonstrate when you're speaking English, especially in professional or networking situations. Let's talk about another important aspect of discussing goals: timelines. When you talk about your goals, it's helpful to mention when you want to achieve them. This makes your goals more concrete and shows that you've thought about them seriously. You might say, I plan to achieve this goal by the end of the year, or I'm working towards this goal over the next 6 months, or this is a 5-year goal for me,
Or, I hope to accomplish this within the next 2 years. You can also talk about short-term steps within your longer timeline. My ultimate goal is to become fluent in English, but my goal for this month is to learn 100 new words. Or, in the long term, I want to start my own business, but right now, my goal is to save money and do market research. Breaking down big goals into smaller, time-based goals is really smart, and talking about this shows that you're organized and thoughtful. You might say, I've broken down my big goal into monthly targets, or I'm taking it step by step, focusing on what I can achieve this week. Let me tell you, when I started learning Spanish, I made the mistake of setting a vague goal. I want to speak Spanish. But when? How well? What does that even mean? It was too unclear, and because of that, I didn't make much progress. Then I changed my approach. I said, in 3 months, I want to be able to have a basic conversation about my daily life in Spanish. In 6 months, I want to be able to watch a Spanish TV show and understand the main plot. In 1 year, I want to read a simple book in Spanish. See the difference? With specific timelines, I could measure my progress. I could celebrate small wins along the way, and I could adjust my plan if needed. This made such a huge difference in my learning. So when you're talking about your English learning goals, try to be specific with time. Instead of, I want to improve my English, say, I want to improve my English conversation skills over the next 3 months by practicing with a language partner twice a week. That's specific, measurable, and time-bound. Now, let's practice talking about celebrating achievements, because when you reach a goal, you should talk about it. You should be proud. In English, we have lots of ways to express pride and satisfaction in our achievements. You might say, I'm really proud that I achieved my goal, or I feel so accomplished after reaching my target, or it feels amazing to have completed what I set out to do, or I'm happy with the progress I've made. You can also talk about what the achievement means to you. Achieving this goal proved to me that I can do hard things, or this accomplishment has given me confidence to set bigger goals, or reaching this goal has opened new doors for me. And it's nice to acknowledge the journey too. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. Or the process of working towards this goal taught me so much. Or I learned a lot about myself while pursuing this goal. I remember when I finally felt comfortable speaking Spanish in public. It was at a restaurant in Mexico, and I ordered my entire meal in Spanish, had a conversation with the waiter, and even made a joke. It seems like such a small thing, but for me, it was huge. I felt so proud of myself.
And when I talked about it with friends, I said, I know it might not seem like a big deal, but for me, it was a major accomplishment. It represented months of practice, facing my fears, and not giving up. And you know what? My friends celebrated with me. They understood that every goal, no matter how small it might seem to others, is important to the person achieving it. So never feel embarrassed to celebrate your achievements, even the small ones. Every step forward is worth acknowledging. Let me ask you, are you with me so far? I know we've covered a lot of ground, a lot of vocabulary, a lot of phrases, but I hope you're seeing how all of this comes together to help you talk confidently about your goals in English. Because that's what this is all about, right? Giving you the tools to express yourself clearly and naturally. Now, let's talk about something that often comes up in discussions about goals: accountability and support. In English, when we talk about accountability, we mean being responsible for following through on what we say we'll do, and support means help and encouragement from others. You might say, I've told my friends about my goal to keep myself accountable, or I'm sharing my goals publicly to stay motivated, or I have an accountability partner who checks in with me every week. When talking about support, you could say, I'm grateful for the support of my family in pursuing my goals, or having people who believe in me makes a huge difference, or I couldn't achieve my goals without the encouragement of my friends. You might also talk about how you support others. I try to support my friends with their goals too, or I believe in encouraging others to pursue their dreams, or I like to celebrate other people's achievements along with my own.
I have this friend, Jessica, who's also learning English. We decided to become accountability partners. Every Sunday, we have a video call and we talk about our goals for the week. We check in on how we did with last week's goals. We encourage each other, we give each other ideas, and honestly, this partnership has been so valuable for both of us. Sometimes Jessica doesn't meet her goals for the week, and that's okay. I don't judge her. I ask what got in the way, what she learned, and how she wants to approach the coming week. And she does the same for me. This kind of supportive accountability is so powerful, you know? When you talk about goals in English, mentioning your support system shows that you understand the importance of community and relationships. It shows humility too, because you're acknowledging that you don't achieve things alone. Let's practice some more complex sentences about goals, the kind you might use in more formal situations, like job interviews or networking events. These will help you sound professional and articulate. You could say, my career goal is to develop expertise in my field while maintaining a healthy work-life balance.
This shows you care about both professional growth and personal well-being. Or, I'm committed to continuous learning and improvement, which is why I've set goals around developing new skills. You might say, one of my core objectives is to contribute meaningfully to my organization while advancing my own capabilities. This sounds professional and shows you think about both the organization and yourself. Or, I aspire to take on leadership roles in the future, so I'm currently focused on developing my communication and management skills. These kinds of sentences use slightly more advanced vocabulary and structure, but they're still clear and understandable, and using them shows that you can speak English at a professional level. Now, I want to talk about cultural differences in discussing goals, because in different cultures, people talk about goals differently. In some cultures, it's common to be very direct and ambitious about your goals. In others, it's more modest to be humble and not boast about what you want to achieve. In English-speaking cultures, especially in countries like the United States, it's generally acceptable and even encouraged to talk about your goals with confidence and ambition. People respect someone who has clear goals and works towards them. But there's a balance. You want to sound confident but not arrogant. So instead of saying, I'm going to be the best in my field, which might sound arrogant, you could say, I'm working hard to become excellent in my field. Instead of, I will definitely achieve this, you might say, I'm determined to achieve this, or I'm doing everything I can to reach this goal. It's also good to acknowledge challenges and show some humility. I know it won't be easy, but I'm committed to trying. Or, I have a lot to learn, but I'm excited about the journey. This shows confidence balanced with realistic self-awareness. Let me share something with you. When I first started networking in professional settings, I was terrible at talking about my goals. I would either be too modest and downplay everything, or I would overcompensate and sound like I was bragging. It took me a while to find that balance. What helped me was thinking about it this way. I'm not bragging. I'm simply sharing what I'm working towards. I'm not being arrogant. I'm being honest about my ambitions. And if I talk about my goals with genuine enthusiasm and also acknowledge the challenges, people respond well to that. So when you're practicing talking about your goals in English, practice that balance. Be proud of what you want to achieve, but also be real about the work it will take and the challenges you face. Let's talk about some specific contexts where you'll need to discuss your goals in English. First, job interviews. This is probably the most common situation where you'll be asked about your goals. Interviewers want to know where you see yourself going and whether it aligns with what the company can offer. In a job interview, you might be asked, where do you see yourself in 5 years? This is a classic question, and here's how you could answer it. In 5 years, I see myself in a role where I can use my skills to make a significant contribution to the company. I hope to have developed expertise in this field and possibly taken on some leadership responsibilities. I'm interested in growing with an organization that values continuous learning and development. See how that answer talks about your goals while also showing you're thinking about the company's needs? That's the key in job interviews. Your goals should somehow connect to how you can add value to the organization. Another common interview question is, what are your career goals? You could answer, my immediate goal is to establish myself in a role where I can apply my skills and learn from experienced professionals. In the longer term, I aspire to become an expert in my field and contribute to innovative projects. I'm particularly interested in opportunities for professional development and growth.
These answers show ambition, but also show you're realistic and focused on learning and contributing. They work well in interview situations. Now, let's talk about networking events. When you're networking, talking about your goals can help you make valuable connections. Someone might ask, "What are you working on?" or "What brings you here?" These are opportunities to share your goals in a conversational way. You might say, "I'm currently working on improving my English skills because I want to work in an international environment. I'm always looking to connect with people who have experience in global business." Or, "I'm passionate about technology, and my goal is to transition into a tech career. I'm here to learn from people in the industry and understand what skills I need to develop." In networking situations, it's good to end with something that invites further conversation. "I'd love to hear about your experience in this field." Or, "Do you have any advice for someone pursuing this kind of goal?" I remember my first networking event. I was so nervous, and when someone asked what I was working towards, I completely froze. I mumbled something unclear, and the conversation just died. It was awkward. But you know what? That experience taught me to prepare. Now, before any networking event, I think about how I'll describe my current goals in a clear, engaging way. Let's also talk about social situations. Sometimes in casual conversations with friends or acquaintances, goals come up naturally. Someone might ask, "So what's new with you?" or "What have you been up to?" These are perfect opportunities to share your goals in a relaxed, friendly way. You might say, "Oh, I've been really focused on learning English lately. I'm trying to practice every day because I want to feel more confident in conversations. How about you? What have you been working on?" This is casual, natural, and opens the door for them to share too. Or if someone asks, "Any exciting plans?" you could say, "Well, I'm working towards a big goal of mine. I want to travel to an English-speaking country next year, so I'm saving money and improving my English skills. I'm pretty excited about it." In social situations, you don't need to be as formal as in job interviews. You can be more personal, more emotional, more casual. The key is just to express yourself clearly and with genuine enthusiasm. Now, let's practice talking about obstacles and setbacks in more detail. Because the truth is, the path to any goal is rarely smooth, right? There are always bumps in the road, and being able to talk about these in English shows maturity and resilience. When discussing obstacles, you might say, "One of the main obstacles I face is lack of time. Balancing work, family, and my goals is really challenging." Or, "A major setback I experienced was when I got sick and couldn't practice for a month. It was frustrating, but I got back to it as soon as I could." You could talk about internal obstacles too. "Sometimes my biggest obstacle is my own self-doubt. I have to work on believing in myself." Or, "Procrastination is a challenge for me. I know what I need to do, but sometimes I put it off." And here's the important part. After mentioning an obstacle, talk about how you're dealing with it or what you learned from it. "To overcome this challenge, I've started waking up earlier to make time for practice." Or, "I've learned that I need to set smaller, more achievable goals to stay motivated." Or, "I'm working with a coach to help me stay accountable and push through obstacles." This shows that you're not just complaining about problems, you're actively working to solve them. And that's impressive. That's the kind of attitude that people respect. Let me be really honest with you about one of my biggest obstacles: fear of judgment. When I was working towards my goal of becoming a podcast host, I was so afraid of what people would think. What if my voice was annoying? What if I said something stupid? What if people criticized me? This fear almost stopped me from starting. But then I realized something. Everyone has critics. Everyone faces judgment. If I let that fear control me, I would never achieve anything. So I had to change my mindset. I started thinking, it's okay if some people don't like my podcast. I'm doing this because it matters to me, and I believe I can help people. And you know what? That mental shift made all the difference. I still get nervous sometimes, but I don't let fear stop me anymore. And when I talk about this obstacle with others, I say, one of my biggest challenges was overcoming fear of criticism. I had to learn that not everyone will support my goals, and that's okay.
What matters is that I believe in what I'm doing. This kind of honesty is powerful. It makes you relatable. It shows you're human, and it can inspire others who are facing similar fears. Let's talk about another important aspect: revising and updating your goals. Because goals aren't set in stone, right? As you grow and change, your goals might change too. And being able to talk about this in English is really useful. You might say, "I've revised my goal based on what I've learned." Or, "After some reflection, I've decided to adjust my timeline." Or,
I'm updating my goals to better match my current priorities. You could explain why you're changing your goals. I realized that my original goal wasn't realistic given my current circumstances. Or, my priorities have shifted, so my goals have changed accordingly. Or, I've discovered new interests, which has led me to set different goals. And it's okay to talk about completely changing direction. I've decided to pursue a completely different goal now. Or, I'm shifting my focus to something that excites me more. Or, after trying this for a while, I've realized my true passion is actually something else. I changed my goals so many times in my 20s. I wanted to be a teacher, then a writer, then a business consultant, then a marketing specialist. And for a long time, I felt bad about this. I thought it meant I was indecisive or didn't have direction. But now I see it differently. Each of those goals taught me something about myself. Each one was a step on my journey to finding what truly fits me. So when I talk about this now, I say, I've explored various career goals over the years, and each one taught me valuable lessons about what I enjoy and what I'm good at. Now I've found my passion in podcasting and education, but I don't regret the other paths I tried. They all contributed to where I am today. This shows self-awareness, growth, and a positive attitude towards change. These are all valuable qualities, and expressing them in English demonstrates both language skills and emotional intelligence. Now, let's practice some phrases for encouraging others with their goals, because when someone shares their goals with you, knowing how to respond supportively in English is really nice. You might say, "That's such an exciting goal. I really admire your ambition." Or, "I believe in you. You can definitely achieve this." Or, "That sounds challenging, but I know you're capable of it." You could offer specific encouragement. "Your dedication to this goal is really inspiring." Or, "I can see how much this means to you, and that passion will help you succeed." Or, "You've already come so far. Keep going." And if someone is struggling, you can say, "Don't give up. Progress isn't always linear." Or, "It's okay to have setbacks. What matters is that you keep trying." Or, "Remember why you started. Let that motivation guide you forward."
I try to encourage people with their goals whenever I can, because I remember how much encouragement helped me. Simple words of support can make such a difference. Sometimes when someone is doubting themselves, just hearing, "I believe you can do this," can be exactly what they need. Let's talk about something practical now, creating action plans for your goals. When you talk about your goals in English, especially in professional contexts, it's impressive to show that you have a concrete plan. You might say, "I've created an action plan to achieve this goal," or "I've broken down my goal into specific steps," or "I have a clear strategy for reaching my target." Then you can describe your plan. First, I'm going to research the best resources for learning. Then I'll create a daily practice schedule. After that, I'll find a language partner to practice with. See how that flows? It shows logical thinking and organization. You could talk about resources you're using. "I'm using a combination of apps, books, and online courses to achieve my goal." Or, "I've invested in professional development courses to build my skills." Or, "I'm learning from mentors who have achieved similar goals." And you can mention how you track progress. "I keep a journal to track my progress every week." Or, "I use an app to monitor how much time I spend on my goal." Or, "I review my progress monthly and adjust my approach if needed." When I was working towards my podcasting goal, I created a detailed action plan. I wrote it all out. Month 1, learn about podcast equipment and recording. Month 2, practice recording and editing. Month 3, create 5 practice episodes. Month 4, get feedback from friends. Month 5, refine my style. Month 6, launch the podcast. Having this plan made my goal feel so much more achievable. And when people asked me about my goal, I could talk about my specific steps. This showed I was serious, I was organized, and I was actually doing the work, not just dreaming. Now, let's discuss how to talk about the relationship between different goals. Because usually we don't just have one goal, right? We have multiple goals, and sometimes they support each other, and sometimes they compete for our time and energy. You might say, "My personal and professional goals are aligned," or "These two goals complement each other well," or "I'm balancing multiple goals right now." You could explain how goals connect. "My goal of improving my English supports my career goals because I want to work internationally," or "Learning time management skills for my work goals also helps me with my personal health goals." Sometimes goals conflict, and you can talk about that too. "I'm struggling to balance my goal of spending more time with family with my career ambitions," or "These two goals require a lot of time, so I'm learning to prioritize," or "I've had to put one goal on hold to focus on another that's more urgent right now." Understanding how your goals relate to each other shows strategic thinking. It shows you understand that life requires balance and sometimes difficult choices. Let me tell you, right now I'm juggling several goals. I want to grow this podcast. I want to improve my Spanish. I want to exercise regularly. I want to spend quality time with friends and family. And I want to read more books. That's a lot, right? And honestly, some days I can't do all of it. So I've had to learn to prioritize. I focus on 2 or 3 main goals and let the others be secondary. I accept that I can't do everything perfectly all the time. And when I talk about this, I say, I'm currently focusing mainly on my podcast and my health, while keeping my Spanish learning going at a slower pace. I've learned that trying to pursue too many goals intensely at once leads to burnout, so I'm being strategic about where I put my energy. This kind of honesty and self-awareness is really valuable. It shows you understand yourself and you're realistic about your limitations. Let's practice talking about long-term vision versus short-term goals. This is an important distinction that shows you can think both strategically and tactically. You might say, my long-term vision is to become a leader in my field, but my short-term goal is to gain more hands-on experience. Or, I have a big picture vision of where I want to be in 10 years, and I'm setting small goals along the way to get there. You could explain how short-term goals serve your long-term vision. Every small goal I achieve is a step towards my bigger dream. Or, I'm building skills now that will be essential for my long-term success. Or, my current goals are laying the foundation for my future aspirations. This shows you're not just focused on immediate gratification. You can see the bigger picture, and you understand that big achievements require patience and consistent effort over time. I think about my English learning journey this way. My long-term vision is to be completely fluent and comfortable in any English-speaking situation, but my short-term goals are things like learning 20 new words this week, having one English conversation, or watching an English movie without subtitles. Each small goal moves me towards that bigger vision. Now, let's talk about dealing with other people's reactions to your goals. Because sometimes when you share your goals, people are supportive, but sometimes they're not. And being able to talk about this in English, especially to process your feelings or seek advice, is important. You might say, most people have been really supportive of my goals, or I'm grateful for the encouragement I've received, or it feels good when people believe in what I'm trying to achieve. But if reactions are negative, you could say, some people have doubted my goals, but that actually motivates me more. Or, not everyone understands why this goal is important to me, and that's okay.
Or, I've learned to not let other people's skepticism discourage me. You might seek advice by saying, how do you handle it when people don't support your goals? Or, do you think I should share my goals with everyone or keep them more private? I remember when I told people I wanted to start a podcast, I got mixed reactions. Some people were excited and supportive, but others said things like, there are so many podcasts already. Why would yours be different? Or, that sounds hard. Are you sure you want to do that? And honestly, those comments stung. But I had to remind myself that their doubts were about them, not about me. Maybe they had tried something and failed, so they were projecting their fear onto me. Or maybe they just didn't understand my vision. Either way, I couldn't let their doubts become my reality. When I talk about this now, I say, I've learned to protect my goals from negative energy. I share with people who are supportive and keep my dreams more private from people who tend to be discouraging. It's not about being secretive. It's about protecting my motivation and confidence while I'm working towards something important. Let's practice some phrases for staying motivated over time, because maintaining motivation is one of the hardest parts of pursuing any goal, especially long-term ones. You might say, I stay motivated by reminding myself why this goal matters to me. Or, I keep pictures and quotes that inspire me where I can see them every day. Or, I celebrate small wins along the way to maintain my motivation. You could talk about what you do when motivation is low. When I'm feeling unmotivated, I take a break and then come back refreshed. Or, I reconnect with my why, my deep reason for pursuing this goal. Or, I look at how far I've come instead of only focusing on how far I still have to go. You might say, I find motivation in seeing others achieve similar goals, or reading success stories inspires me to keep going. Or, I have motivational rituals,
like listening to certain music or reading inspiring quotes. For me, motivation comes and goes, you know? Some days I wake up excited and energized about my goals. Other days, I just want to stay in bed and forget about everything. And that's normal. The key is having strategies to push through those low motivation days. One thing that really helps me is having an accountability partner, like I mentioned before. When I don't feel like working on my goals, knowing that someone will ask me about my progress gives me that extra push. Another thing that helps is remembering my past successes. I remind myself, you've achieved hard things before. You can do this too. Now let's talk about the language of commitment and dedication. These words are powerful when talking about goals because they show your seriousness and determination. You might say, I'm fully committed to achieving this goal.
Or, I'm dedicated to making this happen no matter what challenges arise. Or, I'm devoted to this path I've chosen. You could say, I've made a commitment to myself to follow through. Or, I'm not giving up on this goal, even when it gets difficult. Or, I'm determined to see this through to the end. These phrases show strength and resolve. They show that your goals aren't just wishes or passing thoughts. They're serious intentions that you're actively pursuing. But it's also okay to show some vulnerability. You might say, I'm committed to this goal, but I'll admit there are days when I doubt myself. Or, I'm dedicated to this path, even though sometimes I'm scared I might fail. This kind of honesty makes you more relatable and shows emotional intelligence. Let me share something with you. There was a point in my podcasting journey when I wanted to quit. I had recorded several episodes, and I listened back to them and thought they were terrible. I felt so discouraged. I thought, maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe I should just give up. But then I remembered why I started. I wanted to help people learn English. I wanted to create content that made language learning less intimidating and more enjoyable. That purpose, that why, was bigger than my temporary discouragement. So I said to myself, I'm committed to this. I'm going to keep practicing, keep improving, keep trying. Even if it takes longer than I thought, even if it's harder than I expected, I'm not giving up. And that internal conversation, that recommitment to my goal, made all the difference. Now when I talk about commitment, I can speak from real experience. I know what it means to push through doubt and discouragement. Let's practice talking about learning and growth through the goal pursuit process. Because goals aren't just about the end result, right? The journey itself teaches us so much. You might say, pursuing this goal has taught me so much about myself. Or, I've grown as a person through working towards this goal. Or, the process has been just as valuable as the achievement will be. You could talk about specific lessons. I've learned that I'm more resilient than I thought. Or, this journey has taught me the importance of patience and persistence. Or, I've discovered strengths I didn't know I had. You might say, the challenges I faced have made me stronger. Or, every obstacle has been a learning opportunity. Or, I'm grateful for the personal growth this goal has brought into my life. This kind of reflection shows maturity and depth. It shows you're not just focused on external achievements, but also on internal development. And this is really valued in English-speaking cultures, especially in professional and personal development contexts. I've learned so much from pursuing my goals. I've learned that I'm capable of more than I believed. I've learned that consistency matters more than occasional bursts of effort. I've learned to be patient with myself when progress is slow. I've learned to celebrate small wins instead of only focusing on the big finish line. And you know what? These lessons have helped me in all areas of my life, not just with the specific goals I was pursuing. That's the beautiful thing about goal pursuit. It develops you as a person in ways that extend far beyond the specific achievement. Now, let's talk about how to discuss goal-setting strategies and methods. If you're in a conversation about goals, especially a professional one, being able to talk about frameworks and strategies shows you're knowledgeable and thoughtful. You might mention, I use the SMART goal framework, which means my goals are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Or, I believe in writing my goals down and reviewing them regularly. Or, I use visualization techniques to imagine myself achieving my goals. You could say, I break big goals into smaller milestones to make them less overwhelming. Or, I create accountability by sharing my goals with others.
Or I regularly review and adjust my goals based on my progress and changing circumstances. These kinds of statements show you're strategic and intentional about goal setting, not just casual or haphazard. I use several strategies for my goals. I write them in a journal. I create visual representations of them, like vision boards. I set quarterly reviews where I check my progress. I have accountability partners. I celebrate milestones along the way. All of these strategies help me stay focused and motivated. And when I talk about this with others, I can say, I'm quite strategic about goal setting. I found that having a structured approach helps me stay on track and maintain motivation over time. I'd be happy to share some techniques that work for me if you're interested. Let's practice some phrases for discussing the emotional aspects of goal pursuit, because goals aren't just logical and strategic, they're emotional too. They're connected to our hopes, our fears, our sense of identity and purpose. You might say, this goal is emotionally important to me because it represents who I want to become. Or, achieving this goal would give me a deep sense of fulfillment and purpose. Or, I feel excited and a little scared about this goal, which tells me it's meaningful to me. You could talk about the emotional challenges. Sometimes I feel frustrated when progress is slow. Or, I experience self-doubt along the way, but I try to work through it. Or, the emotional ups and downs of pursuing this goal have been challenging, but also rewarding. And you can talk about positive emotions too. I feel energized when I think about my goals. Or, working towards this goal makes me feel purposeful and alive. Or, the pride I feel when I make progress is an amazing feeling. This emotional honesty makes you relatable and human.
It shows that you're not a robot, just checking off tasks, but a real person with real feelings pursuing things that matter to you. Honestly, my emotions around my goals fluctuate all the time. Some days I feel confident and excited. Other days I feel overwhelmed and unsure. Some days I'm proud of my progress. Other days I'm frustrated it's not happening faster. And all of these feelings are valid. They're part of being human. When I share this with others, I say, I've learned to accept that my emotions around my goals will go up and down. I don't judge myself for having doubts or frustrations. I acknowledge these feelings, and then I refocus on my commitment and take the next small step forward. Let me ask you, how are you feeling right now? Are you getting inspired to think about your own goals? Are you feeling confident about how you'll talk about them in English? I really hope so, because that's what this whole episode is about, giving you the language and the confidence to express your dreams and plans. Now let's talk about discussing goals in the context of work-life balance. This is such an important topic because many people struggle with balancing their professional goals with their personal life goals. You might say, I'm working on finding a better balance between my career goals and my personal life. Or, one of my goals is actually to improve my work-life balance. Or, I want to achieve my professional goals without sacrificing my health and relationships. You could say, I'm learning to set boundaries to protect my personal time while still pursuing my career goals. Or, I'm trying to integrate my personal and professional goals so they support each other rather than compete. This shows self-awareness and maturity. It shows you understand that success isn't just about career achievements, but about overall life satisfaction and well-being. I struggled with this a lot. I was so focused on my professional goals that I was neglecting my health, my friendships, my hobbies. And then I realized, what's the point of achieving my career goals if I'm unhealthy and lonely? So I adjusted my goals to include balance. Now, when I talk about my goals, I mention both professional and personal ones, and I talk about how I'm trying to honor both. Let's practice some final phrases for wrapping up conversations about goals. When you've been talking about goals with someone, you want to end the conversation positively and naturally. You might say, thanks for letting me share my goals with you. It helps to talk about them. Or, I really enjoyed hearing about your goals too. Let's keep each other updated on our progress. Or, this conversation has motivated me even more to work towards my goals. You could offer continued connection. Feel free to check in with me about my goals anytime. I'd love to hear about your progress too. Maybe we can support each other in achieving our goals. Or, let's touch base in a few months and see how we're both doing. These endings keep the door open for future conversations and create a sense of mutual support and connection. All right, so we've covered so much today. We've talked about different types of goals, vocabulary for discussing goals, how to talk about motivation and challenges, how to discuss progress and achievements, cultural considerations,
specific contexts like job interviews and networking, emotional aspects, and so much more. But you know what? The most important thing isn't just knowing these words and phrases. It's about feeling confident using them to express your unique goals and dreams. Your goals are personal to you. They matter because they represent what you want for your life. And being able to talk about them in English, whether in a job interview, at a networking event, or in a casual conversation with a friend, that's powerful. I want you to remember that it's okay if your goals change. It's okay if you don't achieve every goal you set. It's okay to have setbacks and challenges. What matters is that you keep moving forward, keep learning, keep growing. And as you do that, you're also improving your English, building your confidence, and becoming the person you want to be. So here's what I want you to take away from today's episode. First, know your vocabulary. Understand the different verbs and phrases you can use to talk about goals naturally. Second, be specific. Don't just say, I want to learn English. Say what specifically you want to achieve and by when. Third, be honest about challenges. Acknowledging obstacles shows maturity, not weakness. Fourth, celebrate your progress, no matter how small. And fifth, connect your goals to your deeper why, your purpose, your values. When you talk about your goals in English, speak with confidence. Own your dreams. Don't apologize for your ambitions, but also show humility and self-awareness. This balance will make you sound authentic and relatable. And remember, every conversation about goals is practice. Every time you share your dreams in English, you're getting better at expressing yourself. You're building confidence. You're creating connections with people. So take every opportunity to practice this skill. Now, before we finish, I want to hear from you. I'd love to hear about your personal goals. What are you working towards? What do you hope to achieve? What's your why, your deep motivation? Leave a comment below and practice describing your goals in English. Use some of the phrases we've learned today. Share one short-term goal and one long-term goal. Tell us what motivates you. Tell us what challenges you're facing. Be as detailed or as brief as you want. The point is to practice expressing yourself. And you know what? When you leave that comment, you're not just practicing English. You're also making your goals more real by putting them into words. You're creating accountability for yourself. And you're inspiring others who read your comment. So please, take a moment to share. I read every single comment, and I'm genuinely interested in your goals and your journey. Also, please like and subscribe to English Club for more English learning podcasts. Your support really does make a difference. It helps us create more content for you, more episodes on topics that matter to you, more opportunities for you to improve your English in practical, real-world ways. So if you found this episode helpful, if you learned something, if you feel more confident about talking about your goals in English, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much. And before I go, I just want to say, I'm really proud of you. The fact that you're here listening to this podcast, working on your English, that tells me you have goals. You want to improve. You want to grow. You want to create better opportunities for yourself. And that's amazing. That takes courage and commitment. So keep going. Keep practicing your English. Keep working towards your goals. Keep believing in yourself, because you absolutely can achieve the things you're dreaming about. It might take longer than you hope. It might be harder than you expect. You might have setbacks and challenges along the way. But if you stay committed, if you keep taking small steps forward, if you don't give up, you will get there. I believe in you. I really do. And I'm honored to be a small part of your English learning journey. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Thank you for letting me share these ideas and strategies with you. Thank you for being part of the English Club community. See you in the next episode. Keep practicing your English. And remember, you're doing great. You really are. Every step you take, every English word you learn, every conversation you have, it all counts. It's all progress. And I'm cheering for you every step of the way. Until next time, take care, keep dreaming big, and keep working towards those beautiful goals of yours. Goodbye for now.